Hey, bonjour, Kirby Jambon here. This is the English language companion video to go along with the video of sources of inspiration for my third book, Cherchez la Chasse-Femme. So just to explain a little bit in English about the inspirations for this book. Again, for those of you who are kind of in the process of learning French or learning how to read French, I'm just going to explain a little bit in English to help you along, but you might still enjoy using the book to help you with your French. Cherchez la Chasse-Femme translates to looking for the midwife or searching for the midwife in Louisiana French. Chasse-Femme is the word for midwife in Louisiana French. You might also hear chaste-femme, which would be, so chasse-femme sounds like hunting woman. Chaste-femme would be chaste woman. Internationally, in some parts of Louisiana as well, you might hear sage-femme, which is wise woman. So all of those are terms used for a midwife. I used chasse-femme because I like the idea of searching, and I play also with the idea of sage-femme because sometimes we're searching for wisdom. But the idea of Cherchez la Chasse-Femme was to explore the idea of how do we bring life into the world. The things which bring life into the world, the people who bring life into the world, the experiences which bring us life which bring life to us, and how we should approach that life, how we should care for that life and not claim that life. And there's also this idea, as I talked about, of chasing, hunting, looking for wisdom in our daily moments of our life. So, and again, the book is published by the Éditions Tintamarre in Shreveport, Centenary College. The cover art was done by my good friend and poet and artist Claire Martin. It's called Gestation. The presentation in the back was written by my good friends Amanda Lafleur and Brenda Mounier, wonderful Louisiana French activists and wonderful women. And one of the ideas you're going to see with the title, with me selecting women to be a part of the book with me, it's one of the things my wife said as well, is that this book seems to explore your feminine side. And I think there's a lot you're going to see in the book that explores the feminine side. There's goddesses, there's poems about my grandmother, about my wife, about my daughter. There's poems about, poems which focus on birth, giving birth. There's poems which is even a poem called The Feminine of the Masculine. So there's all these different type of poems that are there. So those are some of the things we'll see in the book. The book, as all my books, is organized into chapters. The first chapter of the book is called, À la chasse des moments, which means to the hunting moments, and it says it's written from the heart of fall to the first traces of spring. So that was the seasonal time period where I wrote most of these poems. You'll see poems in this thing where I'm trying to find inspiration from each moment of life. Some are inspired by specific ideas. Some are simply inspired about my feeling. Like the first poem, Je cherche à vrai dire, I'm trying to be honest. I begin by saying I'm trying to be honest to what's within me, but I'm also realizing that, I'm not sure I know myself well enough to do that. There's a poem called La Bonne Vieille Amie, which has a messenger in it, or a passenger messenger, someone who's inspiring us. And again, it's seen as a feminine person as well. And then in this passenger messenger, we see on a train ride. So it's kind of interesting. There's a poem here, talks about, begins with a wolf. It's called My Little Wolf is called Karma. It was actually written about my little dog. But in this poem, it talks about how the little wolf howls and barks and cries morning and night to be freed from the cage that we build around us all. And so it was inspired by my idea when we were training my little dog when he was in his little kennel. And but it's also the idea of what do we build, the cage we built around us as well. And what I want to point out is that in this book, the wolf theme continues throughout the book. And in the second chapter, there's going to be a poem about a female wolf, a she-wolf, who disguises herself as a man and an artist. Yeah, it's kind of strange, but eventually the she-wolf and the little wolf who was in the cage meet each other, and they realize some things, that they know each other some kind of way. And then there's a couple other poems where the little wolf and they meet and what happens to them in their interaction. So it's a little thing that began, and I wasn't planned. It was something that came along, and it began with that. You're going to see ideas of mythology. There's this one is Méduse tête coupée, décapitée, Pégase aîné. So the title says Medusa with her head cut off and decapitated, and then Pegasus is born. And it talks about the birth of creativity, There's another poem about which is about Orion and Sophia, and how Orion the hunter must become like Sophia, the goddess of wisdom. And in that poem, it explains a lot about the themes in the book of how we need to lay down our defenses and to bring life into the world and to allow this life to seek its own destiny. In the second chapter, there's this, it's called Rencontre des Muses et des Loups, meeting muses and wolves. And again, the theme of wolves is there. Muses, of course, we know the term, the goddess, they got these kind of divine inspirations. And it basically, what it was during a 24-hour period, the day before April Fool's, I read a poem, and then I wrote a poem, read a poem, and I wrote a poem. And the poems are listed here more or less in the order that I wrote them, I think. But in the back, I list the poems, what the poems were that inspired those poems, and the poet and the poem. And they're but I list that in alphabetical order. So it's up to you if you want to figure out which poem what inspired the other poem that I wrote. The third chapter is called Accouchement, and in that third chapter, accouchement means like the giving birth and different ways that we give birth. And these are all poems about how we give birth into the world, how that happens. There's poems about, in some of the poems, you're going to hear little things in italics. Those are things that meant to be sung or rapped in some sense as well. And then the chapter after that is called La Sagesse pour s'en aller, which is the courage to go away, which is this whole concept of how the midwife, in a sense, never claimed the life, but laid this life into the arms of the mother. And I think we need to do that with all life in our world. Even our children, our children, the life we bring as children, we have to realize that they have their own destiny and own life to live in this world. So as a father and a teacher, something I've come through experience to understand, or at least try to understand. And then there's a final chapter, a lagniappe, which means a little something extra, where I wrote some poems during the time period of the Festival International, and they're kind of inspired by that. And some of these poems are also, there's videos of some of these poems, me reading some of these poems in the book already in the YouTube channel, in my playlist, Mes Poèmes, My Poems. So just a little description again. If you're interested again in getting a book, the book is located through Les Éditions Tintamarre. The website is located on the About section here on my YouTube channel. And also, if you're able to make a donation for promoting, in order to help me put out more videos, you can PayPal or Venmo me there, and I appreciate that. But even if you can't, that's totally fine. I just appreciate you tuning in and supporting what we do in Louisiana, supporting Louisiana French, and supporting me. And, everybody be safe, okay? And until the next time, soignez-vous autres, soignez les autres. Y'all take care of each other. Au revoir.